Welcome, everybody. I'm sure that there are some of us who still want to give input at the different stations, but we're going to go ahead and start the presentation now so that, because some of us have been here for a while, we want to keep everybody's, respect everybody's time. My name is Megan Henderson. I'm the city manager of Hillsboro, and I'm excited that our consultants from Virginity are here to kick off our comprehensive planning process. They'll tell you more about that. What I want to tell you is a little bit about why this is so important. I've been in Hillsboro with the city staff for just over 4 years. And in that time, it seems like, when I got here, council told me, we've got a real problem with streets, and we need you and the staff to focus on that. But in that 4 years, not only have we discovered just how big and far-reaching and expensive our street problem is, but also how big and far-reaching and expensive our water problem is. We're starting to get a handle on how big and expensive our wastewater problem is, and we haven't even started thinking about how big or expensive our drainage problem is. There is so much infrastructure need in this community, and our ability to pay for it is nowhere near that big. We are on the wrong side of a snowball that is coming behind us. Makes me feel like Indiana Jones. So I think we know and we understand in our core that Hillsboro is on the verge of growth. That means that this is our unique moment in time to figure out how to get on the other side of that snowball. That growth can either help us or it can hurt us. And we need to figure out and make smart decisions right now before it's too late. And that growth comes with its own engine, its own timeline, and it's going to come at us. If we're not ready, it will drive us in the directions that it wants. We've got to get in front of it, and the way that we do that is with a comprehensive plan, and these guys will explain more about that. But what I want you to hear me say is, I think that it is critical for us to be able to say grace over this beautiful but expensive set of stuff that we've got to deal with. We've got to deeply engage in this process. And the other part is, this plan has got to be a Hillsboro plan. And that means that you guys and your friends and neighbors and family members speak into it, because that is what's going to make it valuable for us. This isn't a plan for anybody else. This isn't trying to satisfy anybody else's model or anybody else's needs. This is for us. And the only way that we can make it for us is by speaking into it. So I think that's kind of the thing for me. I will let the Virginity team introduce themselves, except for Kevin Shepard, who I think is going to kick them off. Is that right? Just kidding. Except for Catherine Linares, who is, I believe, going to kick them off.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. How are y'all?
Okay. Just sitting there.
Can you recognize the mayor, because I failed to do that?
Yes, Mayor, if you can. Hi, how are you? Wait, hi to everyone. Thank you for coming out. We are very excited to work with you, council, and of course the community on creating, like Megan said, a plan that is truly a Hillsboro plan that will propel y'all to the best versions that y'all want to be of yourselves and continue being a place where you all can live and also new residents can find their home. So we will be going through some introductions. We'll be discussing what is a comprehensive plan, talking a bit about the project timeline, and then talking about cultivating prosperity in Hillsboro. It will be part history lesson, but also part of bringing back what used to work that we kind of lost sight of, and how we can make it a Hillsboro, or put it in a Hillsboro manner. So let me first start off by introducing the Virginity team. I am Catherine Linares. I will be the project manager on the Virginity side for this project. We have with us Kevin Shepard, our CEO. He will be presenting to you this evening. We have our creative director, Marshall Hines. He's taking lovely pictures of you that will end up in the plan. He will be with us on certain trips as well, with engagement events, etc., and so on and so forth. And then we have our lovely Lexi Schrader in the back. She is also a planner, and she will be basically doing a lot of everything. She'll be engaging with you all as a community. She will be behind the virtual engagement activities y'all do, writing the plan, so on and so forth. So what is a comprehensive plan? So a comprehensive plan is a fundamental guiding document that basically tells, or it allows the city leadership, staff, it allows developers, and it allows you residents to know what to expect in the future of Hillsboro. And that it takes different forms. That could be physical growth, such as where you can expect commercial, residential, other types of what we call uses to be present within your city. It also is a foundation for economic growth. It'll set the foundation for economic development policies. But then we add another aspect to our comprehensive plans, where we use it, where we create it for you all to use it as a mechanism for decision-making principles, or decision-making, I should say. So it will have the values that we will get from you all. We will have the aspirations, and then we will have decision-making principles that, again, you all tell us that then city staff and city leadership and city council will then use as a lens when making decisions on development projects, investment projects, infrastructure, parks, and so on and so forth. Basically, any project that affects the quality of life and also the physical health of the community. Okay. So, well, let me stop right there. Does anyone have any questions on what is a comprehensive plan? Not yet? Okay. Well, this is, I will say, a long planning process. It will be about 18 months. There will be 5 different phases. We are currently in the first phase, the assess phase. So this is the project kickoff. There is a website for the project. We do have the first survey that is live. There are handouts that you can scan the QR code that will lead you to the survey that's in both English and Spanish. And then from there, it will take you to the project website. The project website is hillsboro35.com. There you can also take the survey, and then there's a list of just different things like events, future events, photos. We'll be putting some resources on there. There's also a post there already that says what is a comprehensive plan, in case someone who is not able to come out can read it. So please let everyone know, and look forward to seeing your responses. But I will say that in each phase we will have additional trips where we'll be getting different types of input, such as on housing, mobility, community facilities, things of that nature. So Mr. Shepard will come up here when he has a moment, because he's getting more chairs.
More seats, good turnout.
I know, very. I will say, y'all have had one of the best turnouts for a kickoff that we've had in a long time. So I think that shows how much y'all are interested and invested in the future. And I hope that this type of turnout continues throughout the entire process.
Thank you. Good evening, guys. Can y'all hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. How many of you guys care about the value of your property? How many of you guys care about what the tax rate is? How many of you guys care about fiscal responsibility in general? Okay. So I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit about some things that I learned. I'm an engineer by degree. Spent the first kind of 17 years of my career. First 17 years of my career as a civil engineer designing infrastructure, mostly in North Texas, a little bit around the state. And then around 2009, I changed at my previous company and got into the world of community planning, serving as national director of my old firm. And so I started going from Texas to working all over the country. And one of the things that I saw was that no matter where I went, big city, small city, rural, urban, suburban, very few cities in this country have the money that they need to maintain their infrastructure. And I started asking why. Why are we the most prosperous country out there and we can't afford to maintain our water, sewer, streets, drainage? Whether you're a new, fast-growing place or an older place, it doesn't matter. The answer is the development pattern. The answer is where, when, and how fast we're building stuff, what we're putting on the ground, how fast we're putting it on the ground. And I'm going to get into that a little bit. But ultimately, what I saw bothered me enough that I said, you know what, I'm going to leave the big company behind. We're going to start Redunity back in 2011, which is nuts. But I said, you know, I'm going to take these lessons that I've learned working across the country and start to apply them back into Texas so that we can take all of the growth and the development and the philanthropic resources that we're blessed to have in Texas and try to learn some of those lessons to grow in a more sustainable way, right? We started off in Texas, and as you can see, the fiscal responsibility thing matters to a lot of people. And so now we're working in a lot of different places. Some are very heavy sales tax states, some are very heavy property tax states. And the secret sauce there, how you fund these things, there's different ways to get there, but the development pattern is a really, really key tool that a lot of cities haven't thought about. We think sales tax, we think property tax rate, we talk about the values of our homes and things like that. We haven't thought about the development pattern itself as being a tool that can either create more resources and close that resource gap, or it can create way more liabilities that we don't have the revenue to pay for, right? This is a big one for me. If you look at cities' comprehensive plans, strategic plans, just city websites, most cities are going to say, we want to be fiscally responsible, we want to be environmentally sustainable or environmentally resilient, we want to be socially inclusive, we want to have affordable or attainable housing, and I love the preserved quality of life. Every city we want to provide high quality of life for our residents. We say these things, but when you really dig in and start to explore the investments that the city makes, the decisions that they make about what projects are we going to approve, what developments are we going to approve, what infrastructure are we going to build, what economic development incentives are we going to give, they rarely align with these priorities. And so that leads to, Catherine mentioned, this misalignment of plans, or you might have a vision that says this and then policies that say this. One of the things that we're going to talk about through this process is something called incremental development, infill development, basically going into your core vacant lots, putting buildings on them, building things smaller lots, smaller units. They're more affordable. The more density you have, the more taxable value you have. So you can raise the value of your community without having to change the tax rate, right? And I'm going to unpack that a little bit for you, but there's a lot of things that we can do to get better alignment between the vision and values of the community and then how we're going to develop it so that we're making smart decisions with our land. The most valuable resource the city has is the land, right? Once you build something on it, once you build infrastructure, once you put a development in, you're kind of locking in that pattern, at least for a while, right? And so we want to try, the beauty of a comprehensive plan of starting at the top is finding out what is the realistic vision for Hillsboro. What's a shared vision that everybody that's currently here can get behind, and then maybe also has a little sprinkling on the outside to attract some new people to Hillsboro in the future. But the first goal is to take care of you all. Why are you here? Why do you want to stay here? What's important to you? And build this plan for you first. And then if other people want to come to Hillsboro and be a part of it, that's awesome. But if we focus too much on bringing other people here and we forget about you all, then neither one works. Oops, I think I skipped one. So, this is a question I've been asking probably 15 years now. City managers, councils around the country as we work with them. When it comes to growth and development in your community, what's the biggest challenge or frustration that you're dealing with? This is by far it. We have growing wants and needs in our community and nowhere near enough resources to take care of them. There's a lot of talk out there about cities aren't responsible with our money, they need to be a better steward of taxpayer dollars. I will tell you, most cities in this country are so underfunded, it's crazy. There's very few organizations that are as savvy with their money as cities are. There's some exceptions, whether it's a department or a city overall, but by and large, most cities are pretty good stewards of the dollars that they have. There's just a massive misunderstanding of what it really costs to provide public safety, good infrastructure, economic development, parks, police, all the things. It all costs money, and you'll hear me say over and over through this process, we as residents, we across this whole country have been getting a Cadillac, and I'm looking around here, most of you guys are gonna get this, but we're paying for a Yugo, right?
Yeah.
Or if you want me, the younger folks in here, I'll say I don't know, a Ford Focus or a Honda Civic, pick something, but we've been getting way more than what we're paying. And I'll get into the reason for that, but this is a big challenge, not just in Hillsboro, but all over this country. Your city manager back there gets this way better than most. She is so passionate about this. She's very transparent about it. That's a hard thing for city managers and for councils to do, to put this resource gap in front of residents and say, we have a gap. We have to close it. We're gonna try every tool in the toolbox to do that. But a lot of councils and a lot of city managers don't even want to tell their residents that they're behind. So first step is just admitting you have a problem, right? So we have all this wealth and growth, and we say we're this prosperous country, but why? If we're so prosperous, why are we struggling to pay the bills? And the answer is the development pattern. Pre-World War II, before the invention of the car, right? Everything was built incrementally with the resources that we had. There were no incentives, there were no fancy zoning codes. We're gonna build stuff a little bit at a time as people come here, as the demand is for it, and we'll build incrementally out, incrementally up, and incrementally more intense. So we would build a few blocks, people would come, they would do their thing, a few more people would want to be a part of it, we would go out another block. Your square is exactly this. It started as the square and it went out a little bit at a time, right? Post-World War II, cars invented, all the housing policy comes out, and all of a sudden we want to build the American dream all over this country, right? You can now go buy a bunch of land for cheap. You can now build roads that people can drive to, and so we all of a sudden this big open area became an opportunity to go build, more subdivisions, more car-centric, auto-centric development. And what I say here is, the race to be the best place to live, work, play, but it's, we're aggressively pursuing fast growth, high quality of life, rec centers, all these bells and whistles, without thinking about the long-term costs, the long-term environmental impacts, the long-term social impacts on our kids. The way we've designed and built our places for the last 70 years is very different than the way every city on this planet built pre-1950, right? So what about maintenance? This is what I saw. This is what I saw going around the country. Like, why? Why do we have places that at one point were very prosperous, they had activity, they were vibrant neighborhoods, vibrant communities, and then when a city can't maintain them, they look like this, right? It starts with a water main breaks here and there. It starts with the sidewalks start to cave a little bit. It starts with a couple of cracks in the pavement, right? And that's on one street, and then it's on another street, and then all of a sudden, it's in a whole neighborhood, or it's in a whole city, right? Shopping centers, whether it's a small strip center like that, or it's a big mall. How many of you guys have seen a vacant shopping center like this in Hillsboro or anywhere? Right? We got a few of those. But they were once full, right? I get some pushback on this, but we are building cities that we can't afford to serve as cities, and we can't afford to live in them as residents. We are building and living way beyond our means across this whole country. So, and I will say too, the Texas perspective is a little different. We're based in Texas. We do, like I showed, we do most of our work in Texas. We all live in Texas, except for one. We got one in Shreveport, Louisiana, and he keeps it real for us because you want to go to a crazy place, go across the border mountain. But we have a serious challenge in this country especially with infrastructure. I don't care if you're at the federal level. In my national role, I was in DC twice a month. That place is crazy. But we have infrastructure challenges at every level, federal, state, county, city. There's challenges all over. We've got to close this gap. Here's the historic development pattern I was telling you about, right? It starts this is actually from Chuck Marone from Strong Towns. If you want to look up a group that really does a lot of advocacy work about these kind of fiscally resilient principles and town building principles, strongtowns.org. But this is from Brainerd, Minnesota, Chuck's hometown. I like these just because they illustrate the concept really, really well. One Main Street, this was a kind of a lumber town. You got a group of people that come together, they want to start to build a town, right? So they build a few buildings, a couple people get together, and off they go. Over time, that turned into this. More people came, they built a little bit more, they built it. If I showed you the age of these buildings and how they matured, the first floor was built 1 year. The second floor was built 10 years later. The building next to it was built 5 years after that. Incrementally, they built and stacked things together, right? It was not built the whole area all at once by one developer in a year. It evolved incrementally over time as the market and the demand for it was there, right? No zoning codes, no design standards, none of that fancy stuff that we say we need today. They just built stuff. That's a pretty cool street, if you ask me, right? There's issues with it. There was no sewer back then, so there's probably some nasty stuff happening in the street. Anybody ever been to New Orleans? Mardi Gras? Yeah, so there's some things here that we have progressed and solved, right? But that's a cool street. Mix of uses, mix of mobility. You got people walking, you got people, all kinds of different stuff happening. This is how we built the neighborhoods. Look on the left, this is from Indianapolis. It's my favorite, probably city and neighborhood that I've ever worked in. But look how, I would say wide, but look how narrow that street is. There's a lot of places that we work today that our residential streets are twice that wide, right? In this street, you have to slow down. You have to take turns passing each other. You have to respect people walking. When streets are narrow like this, it slows the cars down. If you want to make streets safe, if you want to slow cars down, narrow the streets and put stuff closer together. It forces you to, you can't afford to drive fast. You have to pay attention. When you build stuff wider and straighter, you can go a long way without hitting anything. You can do that, right? And the moms will say, oh, the reason I don't let my kids walk or bike to the park 3 blocks away is because every now and then you get some car driving 50 miles an hour down my residential street. It's kind of hard to do in Hillsboro because you got potholes. I'll come back to that too. But these are traditional neighborhoods. You got narrow streets, you got sidewalks, you got trees that kind of have the canopy over the street that shade the sidewalk instead of shading up into the yards. And on the right, we did a lot of this, front porches, eyes on the street, right? We built stuff where people were on the front porches, people were interacting with each other in the street as they took walks. Today, we put that in the backyard. We want privacy, we want to put everything in the back, and it's just a very different way of neighborhood design. My wife's a therapist. She will tell you a lot of that 13 to 20-year-old range, they want to get the heck out of the suburbs. Like they do the phones because there's no social interaction and that we've designed it out of them. They don't get to interact with the 80-year-old grandma that sits on the front porch. I remember one of the neighborhoods I grew up in, every day walking home from school, we'd walk by her, she had lemonade on the front porch and we'd go sit with her and she'd tell us a story. There was no, the boogeyman's on the street. Right? That's what we hear all the time. You can't walk anywhere, the cars drive too fast and the boogeyman's out there. Right? Just the community trust is not there anymore, and a lot of it has to do with the way that we design our places. So this is traditional neighborhood, traditional development. This is today, right? This is suburbs, spread out, big lots. You have to drive everywhere. And when you have to drive everywhere, you get big box development because they can attract from a bigger area. So instead of a smaller business that attracts from local people that can walk to it, you're a bigger business that draws from a larger area, bigger box, bigger parking lot, more roads. What does all that cost? A lot more money, right? And then, because everybody is driving everywhere for everything, we end up with the top right. That starts to get to the DOT, to the highway level. Our TxDOT, our transportation DOT, the same resource gap that Megan talked about for you all, TxDOT's broke. TxDOT has nowhere near enough money to maintain everything that we've built. But they hide behind we do surveys and everybody says that traffic's bad, we need more roads. So they keep on building more, right? At some point, things are gonna break. TxDOT's not gonna have the money. Your water district, your water supply folks aren't gonna have the money. Everything comes back to money and being better stewards of our land and of our resources. So Oops. So this is Victoria, Texas. It's one that we like to show. So the pattern of development is also a factor, right? So we talk about there's traditional and then there's autocentric. But watch how Victoria, so this is 1940. I think this is going to advance as I click it. But so this is 1940, the core of the city. You can't see it on here, but it's got the really tight grid, the narrower streets, smaller lots, mix of uses. 1950. So this is where they said, oh, look at all that additional land we can get. Look how they start to go out. Look how much area they took on, right? What happens when you build in that bigger area? More roads, water, sewer, lift stations, water towers, fire stations, schools, parks, all the things, right? And so two things are happening here. The city is taking on a lot more area to serve and a lot more infrastructure that they have to maintain. But most of the time, this is also a lower density pattern. So it's larger lots, more of the suburban spread out kind of stuff. So you're also lowering what we call the density, or you're lowering the population or the people per acre or the people per square mile. You're lowering that density to pay for stuff. So when you're taking on more and you're building stuff in a more spread out, lower density pattern, what happens? The cost for every household goes up, right? What's the inverse of that? What's the opposite? If you build in a more compact pattern, you're building less, and the area and the people in the households you have to spread out the costs. You can spread that cost over more people and more houses. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying go all the way to the crazy high density New York City, Hillsboro thing, right? What I'm saying is if you do too much of this and you build too spread out and too low density, the math just doesn't work. The math does not work. So in Victoria, their service area grew by 13 times. Their population grew by 4 times. And we're going to do the same thing for you all. We haven't yet, but we're going to. But this is your pattern. What do you notice? And you guys know Hillsboro better. You don't need to see the map. But when you just heard me say that about a spread out pattern in a big area and higher density or lower density, what comes to mind about Hillsboro? What do you think? Anybody? What?
It costs more money to run.
Costs more money to run. So you kind of have this center band of the city of your downtown over here on the right? The old traditional grid pattern, smaller lots, mix of uses in the downtown. You got mostly residential and all that in the middle. But that's where a lot of your density and your more compact stuff is. And then on the north and the south, you have a very big footprint for the population that you have in Hillsboro. You have a lot of vacant land. Some of it has full service. Some of it has streets, it has water, it has sewer, it has drainage, it's got police, fire, the whole thing. And lots are just vacant. So I don't know if any of you own a vacant lot in the city limits, and you might be hanging on to it waiting for the value of it to go up a little bit before you do something. But for the rest of you, anybody that has a vacant lot in the city limits that is not putting a building on it is costing the rest of you money. Facts. But the first observation I had, and I've driven through Hillsboro for years, never stopped and kind of come into the downtown. I think I might have stopped at this Buc-ee's once or twice. That's only because my family, not me. But you have a lot of vacant land. And we don't know yet exactly what's served with infrastructure or not, but that's some of what we're going to be looking at. It's like where are the places that have full service that the city and taxpayers are already paying to serve and maintain, and where can we guide development into? Most cities, if they say we're going to have 10,000 population in the next 10 years, we can probably put that additional 10,000 people in your existing footprint without building another foot of street, water, sewer, nothing. The question is, how dense do you want to go? How compact do you want to get? How small do you want some of your lots to get? And that's some of what this process is going to be about figuring out. What's the right version of that for Hillsboro? Because the denser you go, the more taxable value you're going to get, the more revenue the city can get to put into things without having to adjust your tax rate, right? So this is a chart that kind of shows the typical growth of most of these post-World War II communities in Texas. You start at the left, low, small population, kind of your square, a couple of your older neighborhoods. You go a little bit to the right of this, and that area starts to age a little bit. And then you get right here in the middle where the growth comes to your town, right? And so this, do we have a pointer on this? Whoa, that's a cool one. Where's Marshall? That's fancy. I was looking for the red dot.